Okay, folks, welcome back. And the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the video. Let's make sure that, there we go. All right, before we even get started, let's just get that right out of the system. Okay, so we're going to pick up the Panzer IIIs where we left off, which is, well, I did some stuff off camera because honestly, on a work morning, I'm not going to film for, 40 minutes. So we have the base color that we've applied. After the Agrax Earthshade wash, we went ahead and added the German gray dry brush, and then we added the Luftwaffe blue dry brush. So we're going to get the wet palette back out here. We're going to add some dark sand to this and start working over some of the details. And that's where we're at next. So let's grab the wet palette out here, wherever the hell it might be, and ruin a big spot of it, because this tends to use kind of a little bit of more real estate than most things do. And let's get dark sand out here. There she is. Okay. And we're going to go use a corner of this. Still no smell. Well, this second iteration of this, the Everlasting Wet Palette definitely is more resistant to smells for sure. Mold type smells. Okay. Get this stuff out of the way. Looks like I'm going to have to pick up this area again, as I invariably leave things strewn in places they should not be. And I'm going to, gosh, I don't remember if I end up giving it a dusting of this everywhere. I don't think I do. I think I just come in here and paint the stuff. So we'll figure it out. God, it hasn't been that long since I did it, and I've already forgotten. Exactly how we were doing it. Okay. We're going to get some of this color here. What's wrong with this? Oh, it's missing a corner. Why am I even using this one? How weird. All right. Just keep rotating. Let's bring this over here. So we're going to put some of this Luftwaffe blue, which is just a gray that has some blue characteristics to it, and the old dark sand over here. And of course, the Flow Aid. The brush moisturizer, I should say. And I don't know that I'm going to use this brush, because this one's kind of, there we go, that's the one we're using. That one's kind of really good. And we're not going to really abuse it with what we're doing, but we want to use some of these brushes only for like faces and stuff like that. So we're going to add a little bit of this lightener in here. And let's pick out some details on these tanks. That's too much of a step up. Too much of a difference. There we go. Let's try that. That's a little better. Hopefully we can get these done this weekend. I think that's not too tall an order. Too big an ask. Got those two T-34s that I would love to finish up, but I need to seal them. And tonight is not the night for that. It is colder than I want to really spray in. Don't want anything to go really sideways when it comes to that. So we're just going to wait on that. We are going to need a little bit of fan, get some air movement. I'm not a fan of working in an environment that has no air circulation. Anyhow, we made it to Friday. As I like to say, now it's TGIF. Not at the beginning of the day, when you have to deal with all the problems and nobody wants to work. When you do these vehicles, you have to mix up more paint than you're used to when you're doing figures. The figures definitely does not use very much paint at all. What is that that's shaking? Okay, it's better not up against the wall, I guess. And I don't hear well, so if I hear it and I don't hear well, I know for a fact there's other people hearing it. Well, we got some folks on here. How you guys doing this evening? Let me know what you guys are working on. I assume you're working on something. It'd be pretty silly just to listen to somebody ramble on. Although I've done that. I've listened to other people in, like, folded clothes or something like that. Anything that's distracting. So I'm starting to think this is actually probably too heavy a step up between colors, actually. But it's not a big deal on the running gears. You can always fix that. But we want to make sure that we have stuff that pops up here that's supposed to maybe be noticed. But the Panzer Gray is supposed to be fairly dark. Obviously it's going to get lightened up when we end up putting some of the dry brushing from the environment that's going to kick up on the chassis of the tank. Spencer Wright, welcome. Working on your game for Sunday. Is it a game you're putting on, I take it? What is it? Sunday. There's a good day to play games, not Monday. I really don't like that we play on Mondays. It's pretty annoying for me. If we're going to work on it Monday through Friday, Friday would definitely be my choice. Panzer Grau, that's right. I think this is one of the colors I'm kind of low on. I need to go to the game store. I heard there's a game store here in town that's new, or I haven't been to it. And they have a full line of the Vallejo paints. So we're going to pay them a visit tomorrow. I was actually very close to it this evening when I went out for dinner with the family, but needed to get back and do some other, needed to get the daughter back here. Otherwise I would have gone over there. But it's kind of an interesting game store. I think it doesn't even open till noon, but it stays up till open till like midnight, which is really unusual, but it's got a lot of game space. I don't think they have anything historical at all there. I bet you money they don't. But it's an FRPGDM Scotty's Easy DC system. Well, that is a mouthful there. FRPG. Well, no, I know what the RPG part is. What's the F part? Friendly? Easy D6 system. I'm going to run this game like an role-playing game, I think. You know, when I get other people involved in it. In other words, you're going to be the role play as a squad leader or assistant squad leader. That kind of thing. You know, run your little squad. You'll have multiple characters, but you won't have to check for traps or, you know, have conversations with NPC kind of thing, but fantasy. Okay. I don't do... Only fantasy gaming I do is Diablo. That's it. But I prefer fantasy to science fiction. If I had to pick one of the two, I prefer fantasy. Science fiction tends to have, you know, sometimes they have some kind of science that seems way too unbelievable in it. Or maybe I'm just trying to rationalize everything and make me feel better about it, looking at it logically, but I prefer fantasy to science fiction. We're going to put some, we'll call them scratches. There is Joe Coton, painting as well. Excellent. Joe, whenever you want to play that, whenever you want to bring that Ironclads game, you probably don't have enough time to do it on a weekday. I wouldn't mind playing that Ironclads game. I actually had a copy of it. Somebody gave me a copy of that game. I did not have the later expansion. I only had the Civil War one, and I sold it. It sold for quite a bit on eBay. I don't know, $100 or something like that. But everybody that I've ever heard about the talk about that game, everybody likes it. It is not an attractive looking game color-wise. I just don't like games that have water. Like Wooden Ships and Iron Men, okay? Wooden Ships and Iron Men has a water board, but within the water board, there's like these lines. And depending on the scenario, okay, this line, this represents land. I'm like, nah, give me an overlay that that has that shape. I don't like to squint my brain to try to see what's going on. At least that's what I call it, squinting your brain. Like, oh, I didn't realize you could see me there because that was. And it used to happen all the time with Squad Leader. Squad Leader would do that. They'd have these scenarios. They'd be like, okay, you're going to play with half a board, and on this half of the board, this hill is actually woods. And come on, man, give me an overlay. And they did that sometimes. Sometimes they would give you overlays, but frequently they wouldn't. So that ended up being scenarios that I wouldn't play. Because I've tried to play them, and they get really confusing. There's a lot of stuff to look at, so... I wouldn't mind playing that Ironclads game, especially if you're doing something that's post-ACW. Because I'm not an ACW fan. First of all, those ships are extremely unattractive. Except maybe, what's that cute little turd? Manassas? I think Manassas is a cute little turd of a ship. But all the other ones, they're really unattractive vessels. I'm always saying I'm a big fan of the British ship names. I think they've got the best names out there as far as, if you're talking about capital ships and whatnot. And some of the worst ones are like Union ships. I think Union ships have horrible names. But then again, I'm not really a fan of a ironclad named Panawantok or something, I wish they'd put up the. Apparently there's a problem with some of the game listing thing because it still isn't up for Recon. I'm surprised they still hadn't. I mean, it's usually they're like hounding about getting that stuff out. I mean, it's already the end of January. So we got what? February, March, April. It's 3 months away. Man, this thing has so many little nooks and crannies. This process could take a while, but hey, it is what it is. Recon's up, you can place games. Okay. Well, I won't be placing any games. So I'm just going to be along for the ride. I just kind of want to hang out and not have any responsibilities, so. Jacksonville, Mitch, was talking to me about doing some of this World War II stuff at Skirmish Con. But the problem with running a game at a con is there's not enough time. And in a 4-hour session. And that's before I found that Skirmish Con actually has 3-hour sessions. So that's even worse. So I'm pretty sure I won't be running this at any convention. This is going to be like a. I'm probably not even going to run this at Mitch's. You're gonna have to play here on a weekend, which isn't a problem for some people, but I don't want to do it on a weeknight and spend an hour or so setting it up. And next thing you know, you got an hour and a half to play. That's not my idea of a good time. An unfinished game is a missed opportunity. But for once, on Monday, I think my Monday isn't going to be a hell day at work. Because usually my Mondays are like the worst day of the week. Not because it's a Monday, we just got a lot of things going on for Tuesday. Because we're working the day before, working on stuff for the next day kind of thing. So Tuesdays tend to be very busy, which means we got a lot of stuff to get out the door on Monday. Like, had we played on if Cletus was in town instead of wherever the hell he went to, I wouldn't have come over this week. Midweek this past week was terrible for me. It just ends up being too much of a worry. Too much stuff to worry about. Now, a lot of this stuff is going to end up getting covered over by, dusting, but if you look close enough, it's there. And this is just some irregularities of color and somewhat. I really want to try my hand at a Panzer dark yellow color soon. I've only done one, and it was one that is kind of an old casting. An old casting I'm not particularly proud of. It's just crude. So well, I did a count the other day. Ever since I started working on these guys in October of last year, I've got almost 50 vehicles painted. So, Dunkelgelb, yeah, I called it for so long. I used to use Poly S paints, and they used to call it German Armor Dark Yellow. That's what the little Poly S thing was called, and I still occasionally call that, because just have it, even though I haven't used Poly S paints in 25 years, maybe even 30 years. Probably since about 94, something like that. They all dried up. Those are some of the first paints I ever used that were acrylics. I never really painted much with enamels. I didn't. Acrylics were always on the paint scene when I was painting. before that, I wasn't into painting. You know, I was just some random child. Paul, yes, those were the days. Yeah, I had one that I used. The last one that died on me was one I was using for the basing on my ships. And it's not the color I originally used, but I found one. It's actually one of their railroad colors, and I may still have it here somewhere. I think it's still alive. And here it is. Here it is. I think it's still alive. Well, it probably is in no good condition. This is the one I use for the basing. On my ships, I would put them on wood, and it's BAR blue. This is the color I decided to use. And oh yeah, it's cracked in half. I don't think. Let's see what happens here. She dead. She dead. Yeah. Oh, still has that polyester smell. Yeah. All right. No, it was nice knowing you. Yeah, this was a railroad color. Oh well. Well, that left me a space on my paint thing open. Some of the coolest paints that I got, but lasted the least amount of time, was these paints. I came across them at a War Games convention, I think. No, they had them in Emperor's Outpost in Tampa. And they were called Howard Hughes. And they came in, gosh, a really low tub, and it was big. I mean, it was like in a container that was impossible to spill, because it was like that big around, but it was only about that tall. And they just dried out really, really fast. And they smelled, I remember, similar to the polyester did, you know, which means it really didn't have much of a smell. But you have only one left, oily black. Oh yeah, I had oily black. And I had all the colors. I'd actually, which ones I used for which ships, and oh well. Nordic, there he is. How goes it? I don't know. I'm gonna pull out a Czech 38 because I think I kind of made a mistake. I think I kind of made a mistake highlighting up at a certain point. Actually, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna pull out this Panzer 3 and see if I made a mistake thinking I made a mistake. I don't think that... I hate when your painting improves. I look at this and I'm like, this isn't my best work, and I just did it a couple months ago. Well, for one, there's a little bit of a shine on it. I don't know why. It's flat coated. Yeah, I'm fine. I couldn't remember if I had mixed a little bit of this sand and then dry brushed over it as well, or stopped at just the base blue. And I thought I stopped at the base blue, but we'll just do this one this way. Hey, if we don't like it, we can come back and repaint it. You're under the weather? Man, again? Sick people kept coming in the house, and sure enough, I got sick again. You know what keeps me from getting sick? I mean, assuming, you can't ban sick people. Go and have some of them emergency gummies. And that saved me quite a few, common colds. Works for me anyways. They're not cheap though. They really aren't. They're very expensive. But I went to New York and didn't get sick. Yeah, if people would just wash their hands, people wouldn't get sick as often. Just that alone. Been sick like 3 times in the last couple of months, and I'm getting pissed about it. I think you should kick somebody's ass. I think you should just, the next person that comes into your house, I think you just lay into them. Make sure you film it though, so you can prove that it really happened. When I get sick, I'm always like, all right, who created this thing? Because I want to go pay him a visit. Yeah, the emergencies have actually worked pretty well for me. I had that cough that came back for like middle of the day yesterday for like a couple hours, and then it just disappeared again. So there's stuff in the environment definitely. It's not helped by, it's not helped by, hey, it's warm today. Oh, it's cool the next day. Like it's like pretty cold out there. Not a complaint. I wish it'd stay pretty. I wish it would stay like that every day. But and it's just weird because my lungs are completely clear, and but I guess I'm just glad it went away. So no harm, no foul. Now, the only thing annoying about some of these German tanks is this side of the hull here is really not tall enough for most of the crosses to fit on there. And I don't dare hand paint them because it's just a lot of work for something that, I mean, I want them to look really neat. The same reason I don't paint any Russian stars. I want them to look really neat. I can hand paint the numbers. Not the German ones, but the Russian ones. I can hand paint those numbers. Because they have some sloppiness to them. But the German ones, for the most part, are almost always stenciled really neatly. I didn't dare do that. Okay, I'm not worried about this back too much. This is going to get a heavy coating of the dust. Yeah, I'm not happy with that. I'm not happy with that. So, with that said, let's grab this dry brush that's here. Ooh. Not everywhere. There's just some spots that just, They just can't be that dark. It's just not going to work out. Why do I feel like this looks like shit all of a sudden? I mean, that is one of the models that I rescued. Let's get one of them Chuck 38s out here. And a Panzer too. They don't all have to be the same color. They just need to be, you know, equivalent-ish. I don't know, this vision I have is a curse. I see like every single little imperfection. And we look at everything under with a six plus is basically what I'm looking at everything with. All right, now let's come in. Make that line stand out. We are our own worst critic. Absolutely. We're our own worst critic, and sometimes we're hard to please. All right. Oh, is this a part that needs to be? Yeah, there you go. All right. Man, this thing is huge. It's almost like 1/64th scale, seems like. All right, now all right, let's mix this up here. Mostly this color here. Yeah, as I'm doing these details, I'm like, I don't remember spending that much time trying to get all the coloration just right on this last one. So I think that I just needed to stop just shy of where I was. Haven't painted a miniature since about the start of December. Well, that sucks. But, you know, you don't have to paint. I mean, there was a time when, not that long ago, I'm like, I don't feel like painting any more miniatures. Just because from a time standpoint. But This is therapeutic. You know, I feel better when I'm done. Um, what was the other night? The other night, um, I felt great. Oh, the other night that I was working on these, in the middle of the night, I'm glad I did it. I started like really early, and I'm glad I did it. It made me feel good for the rest of the day. So the rest of the evening. So yeah, this is therapy. I think it is, anyways. I think that's what it is. I was supposed to highlight with the little bit of the sand and dry brush it, and I didn't do that. Well, they're not all going to be weathered exactly the same way. Now, let's go ahead and even this out a little better. We're going to need to, this one has all the things picked out. This one has not. Problem you've got is I don't have any World War II miniatures to paint. That's what I want to paint. Yeah, that's always, you always want something that you don't have. I don't know, it's the excitement of getting something new too. I'm actually not that excited to paint figures because, man, I've spent 18 years painting figures and I don't know, it just seems kind of boring. But we will. I mean, I've done nothing but paint figures for the last long time. I am going to paint in the AM, but I'm probably going to paint before you're awake. But yes, that's the plan. I'd like to get these guys finished this weekend so we can start working on something else. It's always something else. Yeah, I don't like waking up and I don't like having a weekend day where I don't paint. I like to get something accomplished before the girls are even up. Is more so my interest in World War II and all I have is AWI and ACW and I don't care to paint them right now. Well, I wouldn't want to paint AWI either. I mean ACW either. But that kind of goes without saying. Ooh, there's a rip here. Interesting. There's a rip in the. There's a tear in the. In that. Strange. I haven't seen that happen before. Man, all of a sudden my neck is like stiffened up. What gives? All right, let's take some out. Let's take some Advil, even though it's not Advil. Oh, I don't have it here. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay. I actually painted, some of my first miniatures I ever painted were actually American Civil War, because at the time, that's what they were playing at the hobby store. We're talking like 1985 though. Not 86. 86. And I think there were minifigs. And I'm sure they look like ass. As for a game called Johnny Reb. And I think I had 3 regiments or whatever. Their basing, I think, was like 4 or 5 stands, maybe 6 stands or whatever. Anywhere between 6 to 4 figures on each stand or whatever. But this is a particular game where the guy that was running the game would always, you didn't have to build anything. He'd supply all the shit. He had so many things. He was actually a professor at UF here, and he supplied all the stuff. Then he started playing with Napoleonics, and we'd call them the ants because they were 6mm Napoleonics, and I think it was his own rule set that he was making. You know, this was late 80s or whatever. And that group of people just didn't have a lot of fun playing games with them. They're just too dry. You know, not animated and stuff, you know, when things happen. I mean, there's cause for celebration when certain things happen in a game. You know, you need to be ready to embrace the celebratory aspect of what that could entail. But if you're just like a stick in the mud, that's just no fun. No fun for me. I think that's what it was. I had dry brushed up to this level. Then I started adding a bunch of details because this is starting to look better. Basic AWI for me is 4 to stand, 1 1/4 square. Each base equals 75 soldiers. If I want to go with volley and bayonet, I use 3 bases per unit. So I have an interesting comment to make. And because you said volley or bayonet, it reminded me. I had a copy. The first thing I started on my own, creating on my own, not just playing a game, but getting stuff to play games on my own was for Command Decision, first edition. It was printed, I think, in 86 or whatever. We started playing that about 87 or 88. Right after it came out. And in 285th scale, GHQ miniatures. And then some people in my group wanted to play a modern. So we played Combined Arms, and I misplaced my copy of Combined Arms. I don't know where it is. And I've talked about this before. I said, I think it'd be cool to do something modern, but like, you know, if like some Fold a Gap scenario or something like that happened, like either like the late 50s or early 60s. You know, a time period when, you know, the American tank forces had light, medium, and heavy tanks. You know, they had the M103s and what would it be in the middle? The M47s or something like that. And then, you know, Walker Bulldogs or whatever. It'd be kind of cool to do something like that. You know, and the Soviet forces could have stuff like, you know, T-10s and that kind of thing. And I was thinking, man, I wish I could find my copy of Command Decision. Of Combined Arms, because I'm curious to see what the stats on the 103 is, on the M103. And I came across a copy of the rules and rushed in there, and it doesn't include them. It doesn't include stuff from like the 1950s and early 60s. It has like nothing older than like an M48A5. So I was disappointed. I was disappointed that there was no stats for, you know, to do modern stuff in the 1950s. You know, is there a place, you know, since that Chadwick might have stats for that kind of stuff, or? I really just want to see what kind of armor rating it gave, like those U.S. heavy tanks. I'm a fan of those 103s. I think they look pretty cool. I think they look pretty cool. Command died right before the command stand. Oh, okay, let's see. I was playing a samurai game. My command got betrayed. Ooh. And was surrounded. I had my command stand launch a cavalry assault out of the trap and damn near killed the opposing general before my command died, right before their command stand. Yeah. Frank moved out of my area a couple years ago, so unfortunately I lost contact with him. Yeah, I know that there's other rule sets now for like modern stuff. Like there's a game called what, Blitzkrieg Commander, and I guess the modern one is Hind Commander, but I just kind of wanted to see what the stats of it were. But I had first edition Command Decision. I had Barbarossa 25, which is a little bathtub campaign. I had the book for that. I have the book for that, and I have second edition Command Decision. But that's it. I don't have any of the other ones. Never played any of the other ones. I never played Micro Armor after. See, I always called it Micro Armor. When they were coming out with Micro Armor the game, I'm like, we used your Micro Armor for other rule sets. You know, you guys don't have to come up with your own set of rules. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with this one. I'm pretty happy with that one. And here's the original one. But it has things highlighted that these two don't. So let's just pretend I'm happy with it for now. Let's put some of this in places where it should have it. And not jump to conclusions at this point. Okay, let's do the turrets in this way. MBT was a good rule set. It was a good looking game. I never played it. Modern stuff doesn't interest me. I'm interested in the possibility of Vietnam in 15, but I'd rather use something like Flames of War rules for it. Yeah, I've never been interested in Vietnam. It's just too asymmetrical for me. It's just too asymmetrical. But hey, you know, we played Combined Arms and the freaking M1s. If there's any M1s on there, they'll ruin a game. It's not worth playing if there's M1s. They're like, man, these tanks are really overpowered. And maybe they're realistic that way. I don't know, but they don't make for a full game. You got basically 3 tanks that can take out like, you know, they could be outnumbered almost 20-1, and you know, that doesn't make for a good game. Let's be a little bit more Poor Balch. Vietnam doesn't interest me. Korea interests me even less. The only thing modern that I always thought was pretty cool, and I actually had some armor for it, was the '73 war. The '73 war between, I guess that would be the Yom Kippur War. Yeah, I had some Super Shermans. Big fan of Super Shermans, especially when the 105s. That is a good looking tank. That is a good looking tank when you got a barrel that long. It's got to be really uncomfortable to be in one of those shooting that thing. M1 is the best battle tank on the planet, so it's realistic they're overpowered. I don't know. Who knows? How much of it is the tank and how much is the training? Yes, they're both important. They're both important. Okay, this is looking better to me. I'm telling you, this light is like brutal sometimes. It just, it gives you over highlights places that don't really look that way in real life. Yeah, that's good enough for that. That's yeah, I had Centurions for the Israelis. I had some. I want to say I had some M48s and Super Shermans, and I had T62s, 254s for the Egyptians. One of the first board games I ever played. Actually, I think it's the first war game I ever played. Was this old game called by, I don't even know who the hell it's made by. I want to say it's like Conflict, a company called Conflict. It's from like 1974, called Barlev. And the map is known, many people find it extremely hideous. It has like, it's mostly like these two colors, like the whole map. And the map is not very attractive, you know, and it's got blue for like the water. But the counters look pretty, the counters kind of look like Panzer Leader or Panzer Blitz type counters. They've got silhouettes of the vehicles, and I thought it was a fun game, you know. I don't know. Didn't they take out a couple of them with RPGs? Anyways, that doesn't make a good game when something's that invulnerable, you know. To me, anyways. So when I had my modern micro armor, I had no M1s. I didn't even have U.S. troops. I had Brits and I had West Germans for the Western troops. You know, so I had Leopard 1A4s and some Leopard 2s. At that time, the Leopard 2s had just come out, and the Brits had Chieftains, which is a damn good looking tank. That is a good looking tank. That was probably 88, 89. I think Combined Arms came out in 88, so. It's like, oh, we already know how to play the World War II set. Let's play this modern one. It's tanks like that that make me not like late World War II area. I don't know, but late World War II is okay because if you take something like a King Tiger, okay, let's just take something kind of extremist like a King Tiger. Man, the long 122s can hurt a King Tiger through the front. You know, and the side, well, you know, the sides, anybody can get taken on the side. You know, unlike the Western Front, the Eastern Front, the Russians have stuff that can punch through the German armor. You know, you got to remember the Russians were the ones that had better armor when the Germans invaded. You know, armor, you know, plating. You always like the AMX 30B. It's a good looking tank. It really is. Yeah. Yeah, it's got some nice lines on it. It's similar to the Leopard 1, like armor thickness and got the same gun. Yeah, it's a good looking vehicle. One thing I never liked about the modern is if you had Germans, if you had West Germans and you had Americans, they both had the same camouflage on their tanks. It's just like, that's stupid. I don't care if it's practical or whatever. Look, we're military modelers. We want some creativity, and the fact that you tell me that I got to paint them both the same if I want them realistic is just kind of like, you know, boring, you know? I don't care for the Eastern Front after 43. It just becomes a tidal wave of red steel and infantry. Well, I'm going to do some 44 stuff. I've got 34 85s, you know. The really bad year for the Russians is like late 43. Because late 43, 85 millimeter gun stuff isn't prevalent. So you are severely outgunned against Panthers, and I mean obviously you got more Russian stuff than you do Germans, but the Panthers and Tigers really outperform the Russian stuff. You don't have very many Russian guns that can deal with. I mean, there was some late 43. There was some KV-85s, but you know, by and large, everything else that they had really, that's kind of some real disparity. Of course, the ranges I'm going to be doing, I mean, their penetrations, like, it doesn't get any better. I mean, it's basically point blank range for everybody. Battles around Budapest, 45. Too many SS guys. It's too much SS shit in Budapest. I don't like SS stuff. Didn't say I wouldn't play them. I just don't like them. That's all. Oh, that said, I wouldn't mind painting some because it'd be a challenge to do their camouflage smocks. A challenge I think that I could succeed at, especially since there's a lot of folks out there that have got some real good tutorials on how to do it, or at least what seemed to work for them. So at least you have kind of a starting point where, you know, hey, let me try doing that kind of thing. But problem you have with late World War II is when he started gaming, it was Flames of War, and the people I played with all wanted to run late war and Nightmare list and refused. Sure, that's one at all costs to Warhammer players. Sure, I get it. I like everything, so the only thing I don't like about late war period, well, the thing I dislike the most is I don't like the Germans in Dunkelgelb. I prefer them in gray. With that said, I started my next Audible read is on Kursk. So we've got the T-70s are for Kursk scenarios. These two T-34s, once I can spray them in the morning, they are for Kursk time period. And I got a shitload of long-barreled Panzer 3s and Panzer 4s for that period. None of my Panthers are for Kursk. I don't have any Ds. Zvezda makes one. That'd probably be the way to go. All right, I need to, what are you, get your water? Oh, it's only 9. All right, this is the one that we tinkered with the edging on. All right, let's do the edging on the turret for this one. So they would be, we could probably leave him on here. So that way it's something to grab it from. All right, let's grab this and let's lighten this thing up a little bit. Yeah, the problem with doing the SS for me that I'm worried about is that I want them still to look like in my style and do the SS camo smocks, but I'm sure I could solve it. I've had bigger fish to fry. I'm not a fan of Zimrit. I'm really not a fan of Zimrit. Zimrit sometimes looks like shit. Even if you do it right, it just looks wrong. So I'm not a fan of it. And it really was something that they should have never even done, but it is on a lot of vehicles. I'd never be done if I painted 28 millimeter. That just takes way too long. I have no love for the scale. I didn't grow up playing any games that were of that size, so they're not geared for me, That's okay, Other people can enjoy them. Just like, I prime in black. If you don't like the prime in black, don't prime in black. I don't care. I'm not trying to convert anybody. I had a couple people, 2 people that I actually can think of that were like, one of them doing 15s. One guy the other day just told me he was going to try doing vehicles the way I'm doing them. That's fine if it works for you. If it doesn't, that's cool too, I've taken what other people have done and put my own spin on it. And do whatever works for you. Yeah, the problem with 6 millimeter games is at least with World War II is the infantry is just really uninspiring to play with, and they are small, and even worse than the miniatures being small. I think that a lot of the rules that are geared towards that, just the infantry just doesn't have enough flavor. I don't mean that they need to be like super powerful. I'm just saying that you need to be excited about playing infantry, and it's like, it's all about tanks. And it's all important because it's all combined arms. There's a lot of games where There's too many tanks compared to infantry in the game, and if there's any kind of artillery, it's like off board. So, you know, first and foremost, we're painting this so you can get excited about the history and learn stuff. Yeah, there's a tiny little change in that plate. I want to put a line across that and make that stand out. Same thing with that. I gotta remember, I gotta try to paint some Nazi flags this weekend and put them on or get them printed. Be right back. Let me go get a soda. All right, we're talking about Eastern Front. We're talking about late war. What's your least favorite Soviet vehicle? What is your least favorite Soviet vehicle? I shouldn't ask that. I don't know that I know what mine is. There's got to be something that just ticks me off. My least favorite German vehicle is those stupid Panzer IIIs. I hate those things. Let's take an old 75 millimeter gun and put it on a battle tank. A tank, you know, one that we've already upgraded our fours from that. We don't put that on it, but let's go ahead and put it on the ends. I hate those. I hate those things. Yeah, I ain't painting 8 millimeter. I'd give up painting if I had to paint 28s. I ain't got time for that. I think, what's my least favorite Soviet vehicle? I don't like BM-13 Katyushas that have the old gas trucks. If you're gonna have them on trucks, put them on the Studebakers. The Studebakers look so much better than those gas trucks. Those gas trucks, don't get me wrong, they look okay. You know, the ones that look like they're from the Waltons. You know what I'm talking about? Those old pieces of shit, which I need to get some anyways, but I don't like them with the modern Katyusha rockets. It just seems like an incongruency. That's been the word of the week, incongruencies. At least at work. I don't hate them, but there's got to be something that. Oh, I know what it is. I know exactly what it is. It's those damn Panzer IIIs they captured at Stalingrad, and we worked them into Su-76Is. I hate those things. I don't like captured vehicles to begin with. So, I hate Su-76Is. I remember when GHQ came up with those. I'm like, why the hell did you guys come up with these things? Not a fan of the SU tank destroyers. Really? You don't like this puppy? This thing's a badass. This thing is so badass, I don't even have plastic to mount it on. I need to get more plastic that is long enough to carry this thing. This thing is awesome. I like the JSU ones better than the SU ones. I'm not a fan of SU-76s. You know, but what else are you supposed to do with T-70s, right? After a certain point. Once the Panther gets introduced, the regular 76mm gun for the Russians is just, it's not cutting it. Just not cutting it. You're gonna answer all the Soviet stuff. Really? Come on, man. SU-100, I got 2 of those to do. That's just so late war. I mean, those were like that's a 1945 thing. You might get away with like December 44, but you gotta slop so much whitewash on a thing, you might as well just say, we'll just use them in spring 45. I think the Soviet armor is a hell of a lot more interesting than the U.S. armor. U.S. armor is just boring. Doesn't mean I won't build them, but it just doesn't excite me, you know? The U.S. armor in Tunisia is at least, you know, varied, and I kind of like the yellow stars. It's kind of cool, you know? ISU 152. Well, mine's a 122, but yeah, it's the same. I could have made it a 152. You like the KV ones. You don't like the KV2. You hate that huge turret. That's a very popular tank. The KV2. And man, the traverse on that thing is brutal. Brutally slow. And if it wasn't on completely level ground, it could take a really long time for the thing to rotate. Best U.S. tanks were in British service in North Africa. Absolutely. The Sherman is excellent in North Africa. At El Alamein? Oh, yeah. And they were painted cool, too, with that, like, brown splotches and shit like that. Yeah, I like that. I like the Brits had a way of taking U.S. stuff and making it look better. They just did. I mean, a Honey looks a hell of a lot better than a Stuart. A Honey's sexy. KV2 looks like someone slapped a deck gun from a battleship on a tank chassis. Looks fugly. Yeah, it looks unfinished. Sure. I don't like Shermans in Soviet service. I just think it's, I don't know. I don't want to build them, you know. Just not motivated to build them. JS2 is a nice looking tank. You know what I don't like about the JS2? It's not big enough. It's not a very big tank. You know, it didn't have very much ammo. I'm going to end up getting some from S Model probably. And those look really good. I think it's a pretty good looking tank. Nunley's Churchill 3s, not interested. I think the best looking Soviet tank is a BT-7. A BT-7M is a good looking tank. And I also like T-34-85s. I think T-34-85s look really good. Now they came in too late. You know, something like this is a little bit more useful. You know, but T-34-85 is a good looking tank. And I shouldn't say I'm opposed to doing Lend-Lease tanks. I'm just like, if I don't have any Churchills for my Brits, why the hell am I building them for my Russians? You know? All right, let me step away from this. I think this may be to the point where enough stuff is popped on there. Because we got to weather and we got to add some lighter colors on it and stuff. You think the turret on the Cruiser A13 is good looking? You mean the A13 Mark II, also known as a Cruiser 4. And that's actually, I did not know this. I found out this week because I'm looking to get some A13s at some point for North Africa. They originally had the same turret as A9. And then they added the spaced armor, and that's when it made it look, you know, it made it look like this when you're looking at it head on. And I'm sure that's the one, because I think it looks pretty good, even though their wheels look really weird, you know. Do I like the Mark IV? Mark IV Cruiser or Mark IV, or the Mark IV German tank? Yeah, the A13 wheels are weird. They're like, hey, we got these tables. Let's put these tables and have no detail. Now, it's probably practical because you can't get, you know, stuff can't get stuck in there, but I like British cruiser tanks. I think they're unique. He was typing something else. I forgot I typed that first part. And the gun sucked. I'm going to try to type, do I like the Grant tank in British service in North Africa? Yeah, it's okay. It looks a lot better than the Lee. Lee just has an ugly turret. Hey, we're just going on looks, you know? I mean, we're modelers. We're build stuff that looks cool, not necessarily that's very, very effective. You know, I never really thought that the running gear on an A9 and an A10 is, it's not exactly the same, but it's the, it's not exactly the same, but it's similar to the Valentine. I never thought about that, but I don't like the Valentine. It just, you know, it's just a tiny little thing. Not a Valentine tank. M3 Lee's an abomination. You like the Black Prince. Is that a Churchill with a 17-pounder? That sounds about right. I'm not putting white stars on my late war Brits. I'm just not going to do it. It just looks, it's just dishonorable. You like the look of the Crusader too. I like the look of all the Crusaders. You know what I read yesterday, this week, and I don't know. I'm running into a lot of misinformation when it comes to World War II stuff, and let me tell you about one of the misinformation things that I run into when it has to do with two-man turrets. I read that generally when there's a two-man turret, the commander is also the gunner. But I want to say I came across something the other day where he was the loader, and I want to say it might have been the Crusader 3. Because what I read about the Crusader 3 recently is the Crusader 2 has a three-man turret. But, and this is what I read recently, so it might be incorrect. When they went to the Crusader 3, because the gun was that much bigger on the back end, because if you look at a Crusader 3, a 6-pounder gun is actually a really long gun, caliber-wise. It's a very long gun. But the Crusader 3, the barrel doesn't stick that far out, so a lot of the gun is actually, a lot of the cannon is inside the turret, which takes up more space. So what I understood was that the Crusader 3 was actually only a two-man turret. And I think that might be the thing where I read that the commander was actually the loader. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that you normally think that, a three-man turret's always better than a two-man turret. And a Crusader 3's got to be better than a Crusader 1 or 2. Has a better gun. So you would think that it would increase number of crewmen, not the other way. But I haven't looked into it, so I read that. It was just kind of surprised, like, you know. But go take a look at a Crusader 3, and you'll notice that the barrel does not stick out that far out of the tank. I mean, it's not this short, but it's not super long. It's a pretty long caliber tank gun. Well, it's 53 caliber, isn't it? 57L 53. It's the same as the U.S. one. It's a pretty long caliber gun. Tiger 1 and Panther D are both great looking tanks. I don't like that machine gun slot in the D. I don't. But the D's turret is certainly more interesting than the other ones because it's got all kinds of pistol ports and stuff on there. I remember I built the 1/35th scale model of the Panther, and I bought the conversion set for it. I don't even know who made the conversion set, but it was resin pieces, and the conversion set consisted of a new turret. It was for the Tamiya tank. So the 1/35th scale Tamiya Panther, I think theirs is an A, and the one that's been around forever. I did this like in 1991. So I had the full kit, and then you replace the turret. The turret was all resin, all different pieces on it, because there's some significant differences on the turret with the smoke projectors on it. I like a tank with the smoke projectors on the turret. It just looks cool. I like several British tanks do that. Some Panzer 3s do that with the long barreled. It's mostly the L's, I think. L's and M's have that. Maybe some N's as well. I don't think there's any J's with it unless they got retrofitted. They certainly didn't come out of the factory that way. But anyhow, so I like the smoke projectors on them. But so the Panther D's got the smoke projectors on there. But I had to take that. That's probably one of the first conversions I ever did. Was I had to take that ball mount for the whole machine gun on the Panther A and grind it down and putty it over, and then put a slot there for the MG42. It was actually MG42 that went through there and fired out of there. Got a brand new 135th Panther G early from Tacom. So it doesn't have the chin, right? It doesn't have the chin armor. And it's got the I don't remember. I know that the hatches are different. The hatches on the A and probably the D are kind of at an angle to the front of the hull. They're not straight across. They're angled. Maybe the G's are all that way. I don't know. I don't know what the. I have a G, the one from Hasegawa. Needs to be repainted, but I think we need to fix up new things before we start retrofitting old ones. Now, the only thing I don't like about these things, these 3 tanks on the 50 millimeter cannon, 2 of them had a release mark here, which is these 2. And I filled it out with putty and I sanded it and I thought I did a good job, but it's still noticeable. So I don't know what the hell I'm going to do about that. I think I'm going to try to hide it by painting all of it. Same type of color. I used that Vallejo putty and I thought it was really smooth, but we should be able to hide it. I don't have time to spend, months trying to get this all together. Yeah, that's a little better. Then with weather, you won't even notice that. But I filled the damn thing in. I used I don't think it mattered what the putty is. This putty is awesome because of the applicator can get in a really small place, but it was the Vallejo one. No, I'm not going to do it now. I've moved past that thing. And there's nowhere in town that has green stuff. Places don't have modeling stuff. I used to have the green stuff way back when. Maybe on the next one. I used to have the green stuff way back in the day, and it worked fine. You can't get it. And the white stuff. But that stuff dries out. It doesn't keep up very well. And then somebody was raving about the Vallejo one. I'm like, I'll give it a shot. And I'm telling you, the applicator for this thing is amazing. Where is it? It's got to be near here somewhere. Here it is. And I don't know that this stuff wasn't any good. Because I put it bigger than the area that it needed to be, and then I sanded it down, but I don't know. I don't know what happened. Oh, well, I'm not going to be able to show it to you that way if that's how it's going to be. Look at this applicator. It's really amazing. You can literally get it exactly where you want it to be. I was really happy with this stuff, but... It was you. You were the one that were raving about it. The applicator on it's great. One of you guys convinced me to get it, and I don't think that this is the problem. I just think I don't know what it is. Yep, keeps my stuff from being perfect. Gives it caricature. But it's just annoying to come back and I'm like, there it is, glaring at you. You don't need to sand Vallejo putty down immediately after applying. Take a damp Q-tip and run it over the area and it levels the stuff perfectly. Well, we'll try that next time. I'm not going back and fixing this. We're past that point. Unless it looks real bad. Only you will notice, exactly. The same thing happened on the Czech 38s. I did a pretty good job of hiding it. Well, they gave me this huge freaking... Is it the release mark? Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. That, void thing. It's like, dude, why is that there? It's, freaking noticeable as shit, And those models are beautiful. I think these are excellent. I'd get more. I'd definitely get more. So these guys are going to have white numbers, probably 3 digits, hidden down here. Maybe have them on the back of the turret, maybe not. That's all I know so far. I haven't figured out the rest. Kind of just go with the flow. There's a least there's a lot of American vehicles I dislike. I'm just talking about how they look. Top of the list, the freaking that duck truck. What an ugly bastard that thing is. I don't care how good it was. Not a fan of it. Easily the ugliest US vehicle. That might be the ugliest vehicle of World War II. Play the game. What game? What game you want to play? Man, ducks are ugly. My game. Well, so my goal is to have a game that looks as good as that stuff you see on War Games magazines. Otherwise, I'm not doing it. I'm tired of being salivating over other people's games. I want my shit to look that good. I got the skill set to be able to do it. That's my goal. And once we get enough stuff for a game going, I'll put one on. It may be something I just do solo. I mean, maybe nobody has the patience to play this. You know, that's okay. I want it to a narrative. You know, I want grenades to start flying and they fall in unusual places, and that's when the hilarity ensues. You know. And it's a set of rules. It's no longer commercially available. So if something doesn't seem right, no reason you can't change it. It's not like you got to run this at a tournament or something like that. I'm really surprised, or maybe I'm not. I'm really surprised how many people actually in the hobby really like to argue about shit. You know, like you'll see, there's lots of stuff on the internet I don't like. I don't feel like I need to comment and be like, well, I don't like the way you did that. Well, how about you just fucking keep it to yourself? You know, there's lots of things I don't like, and I don't need to discourage somebody in the hobby. I mean, they're not going to discourage me, but if I'm doing vehicles a certain way and they're not dirty enough for you, make your own vehicles and make them dirty. I don't particularly want to do gray vehicles and then not be able to see any gray on them, or turn them into rust buckets that, first of all, they look too rusty to me, and it would take me freaking 36 hours or 40 hours to do one vehicle. I'd have too many vehicles to do that way. You know? AMX 40s. Oh man. What game has those? Is it World of Tanks or War Thunder? Those little duck looking things. Those are invincible in that game. I want to say it's World of Tanks. And they're like some like green, they're like a green color. It's almost a little blue. Yeah, I like those little guys. AMX 40s, they'd be tiny. I'll be honest with you, I'd paint some French vehicles. The only thing I don't like about French vehicles is the camouflage scheme that they use is very hard edged, and that's going to be hard to do and make it look right, I think. But their vehicles are definitely cool. Their half tracks and trucks and stuff look pretty interesting as well. The problem with that period is I just hate the German tanks without this little thing back here. Without that little container, German tanks look funky. Yeah. Well, they are showpieces, but at some point, you got to cut some corners or you're never going to get anything done, you know? And I spend a fair amount of time on them. It's not like we're just going to rush them and get them out the door. I don't care what they look like. Of course, I care what they look like. You know, but I can't spend 40 hours on each vehicle. I don't know that they would look that much better. You know, there's a guy that put on, it was in 15 millimeter, he put on a battle of, what rule set did he use? I'm not even sure what he used. He may have used rapid fire. It was 1 to 5 scale, and he did like the Battle of City Rosé. It might have been Rob Broom. And his stuff is less weathered than mine, and his game looked beautiful. I mean, if I saw that, I'm like, I want to play that, you know? And that's what I like. I like seeing games that's like, get me in there, you know? Yeah, you got to have a balance. And I think that they need to match what your figures look like. If you start putting rust stains on vehicles, then you need to put sweat stains on your soldiers. They need to have like dirty knees and shit like that. You know, you got to like weather them based, you know, that's just too much. You know, I like my playing pieces, miniatures, whatever you want to call them, playing pieces to look kind of like a graphic novel. You know, they don't need to look fake. They don't need to look uber realistic, but they need to look like they don't need to look like a shitty comic book either. A graphic novel, you know, one of those comic books you're like, man, this looks really nice. That's kind of what I'm looking for. That's the look that I'm going for. And there's got to be some weathering, but it can't be just like, let me buy the effects for Vallejo effects and stick mud in there. And this is not IPMS, you know? I've done that, you know? I've done that before, and hey, those look cool, but those are models you don't get to play around and go vroom vroom with and roll dice and, you know, and destroy other vehicles on the tabletop. They just sit somewhere and you don't do nothing with them. Been there, done that, not doing that again. So I've been really happy with how these little guys have turned out. I have a lot of vehicles to do. I have a lot of vehicles I don't own yet that I want to get that, you know, I haven't done so because at some point you need to enjoy the things you have. But really disappointed that the Pegasus set for the KV1 and the KV2 seems to be MIA. Because that's actually a really good deal. You get 2 tanks. They're like less than $20. So you get 2 bottom hulls, and then you get 2 KV1 turrets and 2 KV2 turrets. So you can make them both KV2s. You can make them both KV1s. Or what I would do is you paint all 4 turrets, and then you can switch them out however you need them, you know? As we still have more. We still have weathering to do on it, but we need to do, the next step is tools and stuff, machine guns, and then we got to figure out the decals, and then we'll do the weathering over the decals. I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of scared of weathering over the numbers. You know, like I did go over these numbers, but I didn't go over them very heavy. I'm just scared. I was scared of effing it up, you know. So maybe they just got numbered the previous morning, you know. But I've even seen real pictures of tanks, especially like Panzer IV. The ones that really stand out are Panzer IV-H's, you know, which I'm not a fan of Schertzen at all. I'm not a fan of Schertzen on the turret. I don't like it. I don't like it in general. That doesn't mean I won't have vehicles with it. I'm just saying I'm not a fan of it. And there's several pictures that I have seen of Panzer IVs that are dirty and covered in Zimmerit and real archival photographs that's on the internet and stuff like that they took that the actual tank, you know, at the time in black and white, and they look like trash. They look like there's no way I'd let something like that serve in my army because it just looks like crap. You know, poorly painted numbers, especially over Zimmerit. We're like, you know, it's like somebody who's got like the massive shakes from like caffeine or trying to paint them. Like, it just doesn't look good. So, at least to my eye, it doesn't look good. So you got to have this balance between, you know, maybe I won't paint those vehicles. I'll pick ones that look, you know, less a mess, you know. Placing moratorium on buying new game stuff this year. Let's just say Rick makes me feel better about my investment. Managed to eliminate most of my mountain of shame as far as miniatures go. I just don't feel the draw to paint miniatures right now. Yeah, just give it a while, you know. You probably still have some to paint that if you're like, man, I feel like painting one dude. You go out and, you know, get your fix and paint the guy and then go back to doing whatever you want. I don't feel a huge need to learn to read rules. I don't. At some point, I'm going to relearn how to play these rules at some point. But I came across someone who did, ooh, I like how that turned out. Nice. I was just kind of surprised oh yeah, oh nice. How it highlighted all the right stuff. That's what it is. I'm forcibly highlighting like, look, you will pay attention to this line because this is, you know, there's lines on certain vehicles that are distinctive and I feel like you need to make them pop. All the angles on the turrets and stuff like that, you know. Anyhow, I don't know what I was going to say, but I'm just glad to play something that's not abstract as shit. Because this game is not abstract at all. You don't have to be like, oh, that guy rolled a 5 and I rolled a 5. And there's 2 units tied. I wonder what happened. You don't have to imagine it. The rules tell you exactly what happened. You know? And that's what I'm used to playing. I'm used to playing percentile games. Games where everything's, you know, 2d10. I think this is right where it needs to be. Okay, and that one's where it needs to be. All right, I got this one. Just a little bit of highlighting in a few places and start painting some road wheels, which honestly seemed 20 years ago seemed like a bigger pain in the ass than now. But I'm used to painting things that are, after doing all the 15 millimeter armies, I'm used to painting so many things that are such a pain in the ass that, painting a bunch of road wheels that are, you know, all the same aren't a big deal. But I'll be honest with you, one thing that made it a lot easier is this flow aid, because painting the black with a flow aid, it goes around those wheels so easy and I don't have to touch anything up. And that's actually helped a lot. And I don't use flow aid like they tell you to use it, which is mix 1 part flow aid to 20 parts water. Now, screw that. I just put it here and we just use them kind of like re-wetting drops. And I'm really happy with the results. It makes the painting a lot more pleasurable, and your paintbrush doesn't stick. So that's one of those things that I got to try to make the airbrush, the custom airbrush thinner that we're going to use to when I was airbrushing, and it ended up being a fail because it still got stuck anyways. It still would get clogged up. It was a shitty airbrush, but I didn't pay much for it, and it did its job. I painted all those DVA mats with them, so. Can I ask why you stuck around with DVA for so long? It was a good value for the time. You know, I got a lot of good use out of it. It was a good, you know, you could sit down, you could finish a game. It's not my period, and it actually has nothing to do with the period. I stopped playing it. Mainly what pushed me over the edge was I promoted it a lot. I've always promoted it. And I promoted it a lot when our area was really active after COVID. And I just see that people make excuses not to go to the shows and you know, and I spent the last 2 years really promoting it, and like nobody showed up to play at Historicon. And really it's the rules going round and round. You have people that, you know, the rules aren't written how I would have written them. It's in the way they're organized. And there's just people that just wanted to argue about them. And there was no way to solve those arguments. And I'm just like, you know, work is just too busy right now. And, you know, I got a job that if something goes wrong, you got to come up with like ways to keep it from happening again. And it's really frustrating to have, you know, some game where it's like stuff always crops up, and not necessarily in my game group, but, you know, just internationally. And I just got really tired of every single time I was going to put on a DBA game, I felt like I had to take pictures and put the results up and everything. And it was just too taxing. It's just like, you know, I'm doing all this for who? Like, I mean, sure, our group shows up and does stuff, but the community I just got burned out on it. And on top of that, it's not my set of rules. Let somebody else do it. And a lot of those things, I was getting the World War II itch. I honestly didn't think I was going to go back to painting World War II anything. And I'm like, you know, if I'm going to do World War II, we better do it while I can. You know, it's not like I'm not going to be able to paint much longer, but, you know, if I'm not going to start doing it when I'm 50, when am I going to start? When I'm 70? You know? Let's just do it. And several of those things. I got the last convention I went to, I'm like, I had to finish an army, and I didn't want to paint the army. I wanted to do something else, and I couldn't. I felt like I was on a timetable, and I didn't want to do the awards. I was just tired of doing the awards. But I still play at cons. Probably not. I probably won't, because I don't want to get confused between that and the other stuff that I'm going to do. But I'm not going to run other stuff at cons that's going to interfere with you guys' schedule. So it's not like, and I'm not anti-DBA. I'm just like, I don't need to be a part of it. And the other thing that burned me out is a certain someone that will not be mentioned. But they just came out of hiding for 15 years, and they wanted to turn it, politicize it, and they wanted to like run all these events and do all. It's like, where have you been the last 15 fucking years, dude? You know? And it's like, you know, and what really ticked me off about the whole thing wasn't that he wanted to do all this and wanted to get involved in it and everything, but he was playing really loose. And we don't really have a group of guys that play loose. We kind of play by the rules, and there's an honor system to it. And on top of all that, he wanted to be involved. He wanted to be the queen bee, but he doesn't use Facebook. And he didn't even know that for the last not the last 15 years, but the last 5 years, we have hundreds of DBA 3.0 videos. Like, he wants to get people involved in it, but he didn't even look to YouTube, where we've put 200 videos of us playing games. So it was just kind of insulting, like, you know what? Fuck this. I don't have time for it. You know? It's got nothing to do with the people that I play with, you know, our game group. You know, we're doing other stuff-ish with it, but I just don't feel like promoting it anymore. I'm not going to, unpromote it and say, it's a piece of crap, but I just feel like I've done enough. And, you know, I bet that person that was all excited is going to go back to another hidey hole for another 10 years or whatever. But I want to do World War II stuff. And if I don't, like I said, if I can't do this when I'm 50, when am I going to do it? You know? So anyhow, it's a great set of game because you can just start playing. You can finish every game. It's just really, really abstract, and it has some things that could be better. I'm tired of teaching people how to play this game. That stuff that doesn't make, like, I don't ever want to use that terminology again of that skirmishing unit that's not called skirmish. Okay, that starts with a PS. I'm not using that word ever again. It's a stupid word that nobody understands. They can't even agree how to pronounce it. Why don't you just call them skirmishers? That's what they are, you know? The biggest problem with historical gamers is that they play sword and shield, that the system jumped like it's on in a style, and then games become the flavor of the month. Yeah, I play DBA with you guys, even though I don't care for the rules. Yeah, people jump all over the place. It's got nothing to do with British. The rules are poorly organized, and I come from a background playing really detailed stuff like Krieg, Advanced Squad Leader, this game, stuff that's really complicated. It had things that have a lot of detail, but it's not that complicated. Like, you can kind of understand, okay, well, what do you do first? Well, you got to roll to hit. Oh, okay. And when you hit, what do you think happens? Well, you got to roll for hit location. You see if you penetrate that hit location and see what happens with that. It's kind of, all self-explanatory. So, with that said, I do like the size of the game that DBA brings. And so anyhow, that's that. I'm just waiting for somebody that hasn't been at Historicon for 4 years. Like, hey, you're not coming up this year and running stuff? Where have you been the last 4 years, fucker? I mean, people have a reason not to come. That's fine, but I'm tired of. If people don't want to play the game, they're not going to play the game. That's fine. Most gamers are nomadic. Most gamers are nomadic. It's like you said, flavor of the month. That's exactly what it is. All they want to do is run around and jump from rule set to rule set, never really learning how to play something really well, and never being happy. I'm a painter. If I never play this here, I'm okay because I can get my World War II fix playing other stuff. This is just a creative outlet. I want to create this stuff. I want to read about them. I want to learn about units and, oh, what color did they paint that thing? And think of this as like modeling, but there's a chance that I may use these on a battlefield. So, anyhow. The other thing is that you got a lot of people that are like, retired with nothing to do, and they're not doing more. I don't know. It just got old. It just got old. So, I'm not coming to Historicon. Not only am I not going to Historicon and not running DBA this year, I'm not going to Historicon this year. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Nope. Going to use the vacation days for something else. I wanted to go to Historicon and like film more shit. I wanted to go there and like, go to some guy who sells stuff that I like and interview him. Not for just because it's kind of cool. I mean, that's kind of what I know, what I'm talking about. It's not like somebody's going and interviewing that doesn't know anything about that. But I thought it'd be kind of cool. I like the video aspect of it, and I like showing you guys what are doing. I don't want to sit around and like put on a game that nobody shows up for. And meanwhile, there was like 2 or 3 demos that I couldn't play at Historicon because we were sitting around waiting for players that never showed up. you know? That's fine. It was more that than cost of anything else, so, you know. Oh well. It's all good. I still have the armies. They'll get used for other similar type purposes, you know. But, you know, even if I play DBA 3.0, okay, I go to a show and I play DBA 3.0, I feel like this pressure of this responsibility of taking pictures, even if I don't do awards, because awards don't mean anything, just a little thing, whatever, of posting the results and stuff like. And I don't want that responsibility anymore. I did it for 15 freaking years. I'm tired of it, and it's not easy to just say, well, just don't do it, because that's just it's in my nature. I'm gonna do stuff like right, or I'm not gonna do it at all. That's just my nature to doing it. So. Anyhow, that's my piece. And I don't want to run a game at a convention where I'm rushed like this. Oh, got to get it done. Or I put on a game and some dickhead shows up and is ham fisting my miniatures that I'm spending all this time doing. I'm like, sorry, man. This is part of my life doing this. So, yeah, I'm not interested in that. You know? I mean, even I break things moving them. I mean, being careful. So we'll put on a show at home and it'll be left set up, and it doesn't mean I'm not going to play games at cons. Anyways, that's kind of in a nutshell. So that's why I haven't made like a video why I'm not playing DBA anymore. I don't want to discourage people from playing it. I'm not going to take the DBA 3.0 videos down. We were proud of when we made them. We did them as best we could. It's just kind of a losing proposition, because there's always somebody that's not going to be happy with what you have. So there you go. They're out there. That's almost as bad as you saying Hannibal's better than Alexander. Hannibal is better than Alexander. I don't care what you think. It just depends on what kind. I was reading something the other day about North Africa, and Romulus kind of like an Alexander. He like went in and like got overwhelmed. I think the only reason to go to those cons for the flea market and the vendor deals. Well, there's no vendor deals that I've seen. Flea market, sure, if there's stuff selling that you're interested in, but depends what you're looking for, Honestly, if I increased the base size of DBA to more of the diorama size base for each element, it would be appealing. And I'd be less likely to play it, because I think there is a complete correlation between, at least for me, on how much detail the stand has and how much the game has. So that's one thing that I always had, and I mentioned this the other night. I really have a problem with Warhammer, because Warhammer, I think, is a very generic based game. There's not a whole lot of detail to it. Yet the people that paint the miniatures are some of the best in the business. I mean, I think the people that paint miniatures are better than most modelers. And I'm not talking about me. I'm just mean in general. People that paint the Warhammer stuff are generally better than most modelers. Now, there's some people out there like Plasmo and who's the other guy? Night Shift. Two guys that I can think of right off the bat. They're just wizards when it comes to 1/35th scale armor. And I'm sure there's other ones. Those are the only two guys that come to mind right now that I've watched their videos and stuff. But by and large, you look at pictures of like things that enter IPMS stuff, and I'm not impressed. Especially like planes. Like, really, did you add any kind of shading at all? And you look at these guys that are like in White Dwarf and stuff, and they're like wizards. Now, I don't necessarily like the subject matter that Warhammer is, but I still understand what goes into and how many different steps that those things have. But the game Warhammer, it does not deserve that kind of painting. In other words, a game that has that many figures on the board that in a matter of a couple die rolls they all arbitrarily get removed does not deserve you spending 20 something hours on a figure. It just doesn't deserve it. If you're going to spend 20 hours on a figure, and don't get me wrong, I am in favor of spending time painting your figures well, or as well as you can. But there's no point in playing like a, odd he dies, even he lives kind of game. It needs to have more detail than that, for me, That's just, I don't know if that makes any sense. So, like, I'm not interested in playing a World War II game that I'm going to build stuff for that is very vague. Oh, what is it? Oh, it's a Panzer. Well, what is it? Oh, it's a Panzer III. Well, which one? Oh, they're all the same in this game. Oh, the fuck they are. I mean, is it a 3? Is it is it an E? Is it an F? Is it a later F that has a 50 millimeter cannon? That's what I want out of the game. Oliver Cromwell, back from the dead. Hung, drawn, and quartered. I have 2 boxes of Warhammer 40k stuff. I approach this collection. Will build and paint it to the nice standard, base high standard, but won't play the actual game. Yeah. Saw a video the other night. It said there's one 40k army you can build 2,000 points for under $500, and that's absurd. Yeah. I don't have a problem playing the Warhammer game, but give me a warband with like 4 figures, right? And then, and then have some detail to them that, the game doesn't need to be slow. It needs to be less generic, I don't know. That's just me. Lots of people like it, It just doesn't appeal to me. All right. Before I go and tinker with this anymore, let's do a couple of... And of course, we're going to scratch this all. We're going to weather this all up. Let's take a look at this. Okay. I got to look at it from like 3 feet because that's when you can really see how they all look together as a whole. And let's put it. Of course, that one looks so much better because it's got. Yeah, I think I need to stop there. I think we're good. Not stop painting for the night. Stop on the gray. Here we go. Yeah, I want to get a little bit further. So, anyhow. Yeah, somebody was telling me on Reddit or whatever, because I'm trying to use Reddit, but see if we can get some other people that are interested in this. They're like, man, you're not making any more DBA videos? Man, you're the one that got me into doing DBA. Hey, I'm going to keep doing videos. I'm going to keep doing painting. I'm still going to be... I get excited about things. I do. I'm passionate about this hobby. It's not like I'm not going to paint. It's not like I'm not going to war game. It's not like I'm not going to do historical stuff. We're just going to change gears a little bit and, paint stuff that I haven't painted in 20 years. And I'm enjoying the hell out of it. And I liked it. In a weekend, I could be done with this and then do another vehicle or maybe some figures or something like that. Not like, well, I got to paint 11 more stands of Huns or whatever. I don't want to do them anymore, Anyhow. But as far as my 15 millimeter figures, I still have them. I'm not going to get rid of them. I still have my Huns and play a game and be like, you know what? How can we make the Huns a little bit play more Hun-like? You can do that and not have to worry about running it at a certain and not have a problem with people disagreeing with what you did. Like you'll never find out about it. You know, we're having fun playing it and it works for us. It's not like it's Tony's way or the highway. It's like, okay, let's try this. Oh, it works better. Okay, cool. But I don't think I won't be playing the standard game anymore. It's just kind of a not a way forward for me. It's just going to create more work for me and other kind of stuff. You know, there's a guy, for instance, there's a guy that I want to play his game. He lives in California, and he comes about every other year, every third year, or whatever, to put on games. I'm running a DBA schedule. I can't commit to ever playing him because I've got to put my schedule out months in advance and commit to running stuff. And then the next thing I know, he shows up and I can't play his game. I'd rather have a more open, you know, what are you going to do? Well, we'll see when I get there, you know. It's time to take some of that back. I think they have small skirmishes, 40K, and Age of Sigmar. There was one called, and everybody loved Mordheim. I've never played a Warhammer game. The only Games Workshop games I've ever played was I've got Warhammer Quest or whatever for the phone. It's a pretty decent game, you know, but it gets pretty repetitive. It's a dungeon crawl, and I played Hero Quest one time. And do you count Talisman, a Games Workshop game, the board game? That's it. I've never played any other stuff. I mean, look how slow I paint. Do you think I could put up with the fact that, like, no, that's not the set of rules again. Throw all your stuff around. We get out by it like this. Like, who are you to make me undo everything that I've done? You know? I'm not putting up with that. You know, you're not taking all the time that I've invested in away from me. Plus, I want to play a game that looks really, really good. So, painting a whatchamacallit game, a Games Workshop game with players that don't paint their figures at all, it just doesn't appeal to me. And those are some expensive figures not to paint, you know? But then somebody was saying, might have even been you, Nordic, not to put words in your mouth, but somebody was saying that the Games Workshop painters are actually discouraging people from painting their figures because nobody could match that level of painting. Well, you know, they do have some incredible painters out there. I mean, I'm not discouraged by great painting, but on the contrary, I'm like, well, we need to step this shit up, you know? But I've been at this for a while, so that was you. Yeah, you probably have a point there, you know? I think that a lot of people off the street don't realize how much time it takes. You know, they'll look at something like this and then go, oh, okay, well, that should be like a spray. That should be like 1 hour. It's not, you know, and there's no way to cut that down, you know. There's no way to cut that down. I have watched videos on people that I think, in my opinion, paint. If I painted to their level, I would be happier with my painting results. In other words, in my opinion, they paint better than I do. Okay, and there's no shortcuts. They're not like taking shortcuts and painting quicker than I am. You know, so for me to be happy, it's not gonna mean spend less time painting. That's not the way forward for me. So, you know, I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm just gonna start dipping everything. And, you know, that's not the way forward for me. Because there's nothing worse than being unhappy with something you created to make you just say, you know what, F it, I'm just going to watch television instead. You need to be happy with what you create as a creator, or you're going to be like, this wasn't satisfying. I'm going to go do something else. Okay, I think we got this side in. Okay, let's go ahead and do the machine gun, which this is a incredibly fine cast machine gun with a Swiss cheese looking machine gun with the cooling vents in it, the cooling holes. That's going to be black. So is this. Oh man, we got lots of little things here. So yeah, I don't want to discourage anybody. You know, if you enjoy playing DBA or what have you, continue playing it. I'm still going to be kind of active in that. You know, if I build any kind of ancient armies, they're going to be, you know, they're going to be the DBA army lists. You know, I still got lots of figures I don't mind painting. I want to do some of this for a while. This neglected thing. But after being back in this in World War II for the last 5 months, I noticed just before I left the same thing that happened just before I had stopped playing it. Is you go on the miniatures page and everybody's trying to convert you to their religion. Oh, those rules suck. You need to play these. I'm like, I don't want them. I don't know whether they're great. There's just some things I don't want to simulate. You know. It's not like it's my first rodeo playing World War II stuff. You know, so I really don't care to convert anybody. You know, I was like, well, what rules are going to use? Like, who cares? You're not gonna play these. You know, and I don't need to convert you. You know, and I don't expect anybody to be converted, especially when I haven't even shown a video of how these rules operate. You know, you guys need to kind of see how they operate and be like, oh man, that's way too hand over tenor for me. I can't play that. Okay, well, fair enough. You know what early armies I want to build? Early Roman Republic and the Italian city-states. You know what armies they don't have? They don't have like social war stuff. So if you wanted to do like the social war where Sulla went after the other ones, there's no army list for those minor powers. Maybe because they didn't know what the hell they used. I don't know. Okay, we got to go to this side. I got to take a little potty break. I will be back in a few, and I got to check on my people. So I'll be right back. Okay. Lots of Warhammer miniatures from the late 80s. Hey, I've got one. Where is he? The wolf. I'm very careful. I don't want to knock this down. This old thing. 1985. It says wolf on it. I think it'd be fun to do a campaign for the conquest of Italy taking place in the earlier republic with Italian tribes Pyrrhus and Carthage. I don't know. What'd you think of that? You guys watch that Pyrrhic campaign that Little Wars did? Little Wars TV did? I was disappointed. I thought it was going to be different than it was. And that's a subject matter that really interests me. You thought it was too cheesy. I don't know what it was. It was a little too... I don't know. Not how it's filmed, because their stuff is definitely high quality. It just didn't... Maybe I wasn't expecting one person to play Pyrrhus all the time. I don't know. Seemed maybe a little too staged. I hate staged stuff. I don't watch any programming that's staged, like reality shows. It's not reality, it's staged. You already figured out how it's going to be, and maybe if you didn't, it's edited so people say the things at the right time. Just seemed a little too hokey. Danced around too much instead of doing what actual armies would have done. Yeah. Yep. I think so. There wasn't enough emphasis on the combat in their games. You know, I actually picked up the rules at Historicon. Like, I picked them up and looked through them, and they have some really interesting stuff when it comes to characteristics for their leaders and stuff like that. I think it has a lot of flavor. However, they have the same conforming issue with DBA, and I think it's like D10. So like their results can swing really wildly. In other words, there's a better chance for, you know, legionnaires to be like damaged by skirmishers and stuff like that, because the legionnaire could roll a 1 and the skirmisher can roll a 0. So that's a much more of a difference than a 1 to 6, you know. So I guess in that respect, things can go sideways or maybe unrealistically more so than not, but I'm not interested in doing rules, first of all, and I'm not interested in doing rules to sell them to make a profit. So I don't like the idea that, you know, you have this version 1, and because I think they just came out with a second version of the rules, so everybody's got to buy everything again. It just seems like it's just too easy when you have multiple rule versions of a rule to people could be out there playing your rules not to the latest greatest version of them, and you know you're judged by them playing an outdated set. You know, I like the idea of you put your rules somewhere, whether it's a file section on Facebook or something, and that's the latest one. As soon as there's one that's maybe has corrections or something like that, because I can tell you can proofread till the cows come home, and you're gonna miss something, a comma, and it's gonna drive some of us crazy. But you could proofread all you want. You're gonna find something. And it's just real easy to go in there. Nope, take this one's wrong, put the new one up, and you can't even get the wrong one anymore because it's been superseded. You know, but once you publish something, like in a 3-ring binder and stuff like that, it is a real pain in the ass to go and tell, okay, well, play these rules, but you need to go to this other site where you need to download this other thing that's the errata for it. But that's a good way to get people confused or playing something wrong. And these people that make rules, how much money are you really making? You're not making any money, you know? So you might as well just do it for free. And see, I would not want to wrestle with whatever steps I would have to do to publish. I got zero interest in doing that. That sounds extremely unfun. And you know there's going to be a fair amount of that. And you know, I didn't sign up for that. That's not part of my hobby enjoyment. You know. You know, when a hobby stops being fun, I'm not going to do it anymore. So if you tell me, yeah, we want to do DBA, but we want you to contact this agency and get their blessing for what do I need to get somebody's blessing for? I'll just do what I want, and if people want to play it, they do, and if they don't, they don't. You know. I don't need to kiss any asses, and I don't need my ass kissed either. You know, it's just a hobby. So I'm not interested in anything that has to do with dealing with publishers or Robert's rules or anything like that. That just adds more stumbling blocks into and stifles my creativity. I think there is a pad on this thing. I think there is a black pad. I believe it's black. I know the inside of the tank is a light color, but you're not going to see any of it because it's not like the hatch was. So let's just paint this black. We stopped playing Magic the Gathering. Gip stopped being fun and way too unbalanced. Yeah, and you probably have a lot of people that just only play one way. I only play white deck. Only play green. It's like saying, I'm going to play Flames of War, but I'm only going to use Yag Tigers. So if there's no Yag Tigers, I ain't going to play. It's like, dude, man, live a little. Okay, I think this one's done. Most of those things are going to end up getting some dry brushing of metal. I remember I was working at a hobby store when Magic the Gathering came in, became a thing. And man, we hated those people that came and did that because it was weird. They just come in and just acted like it was some kind of cult or something. It reminds me of that game one time. I was playing this game with someone. Well, you guys are here, but it says there's 0 viewers, so there's at least 2 you guys on. Anyhow, this one game that I played one time, and it was a Battle of the Bulge game, and of Spearhead, which is 1 to 5, like Command Decision. So I actually like that scale. I mean, I prefer 1 to 1. I don't mind 1 to 5. and I'm playing this game, and my buddy is playing, and I wanted to play with him, but we ended up getting split on sides. But he's a really nice guy, but he has this habit of he has two things happen to him when he plays a game, and this isn't somebody that plays with us currently, but this is someone who does one of two things. Either they get into combat first and get hosed, and then they have nothing to play with and sit around bored, or they take like the last guys to come on the board and never gets any action. It seems like he always comes in those two flavors. So in this case, he's playing Germans. I think it was a Kampf Group Piper type game or something like that, scenario within Spearhead, and they got this one boisterous guy that I'd seen at the con or whatever, and he's one of these know-it-alls. The know-it-all that doesn't know anything, and I remember him saying he was on the other side, and his comment was something along the lines of, there was like a couple companies of King Tigers. And he's like, I want to play the King Tigers. I'm not playing the game unless I've got King Tigers. To me, if I'm running the game, I've been like, okay, you get to play, but you get to play anything but the King Tigers, because that's the wrong attitude to have. If you go in, it's like, hey, I'd like to play these, and everybody kind of, agrees, that's fine. But to go in there and say, the only way I'm going to play is if I have the cool stuff, that's the only way I'm playing, is the wrong attitude to have an indie game I want to be involved in. But they were nice. They let him play the King Tigers. And so he's on one flank, and he ends up doing something like stupid, like just sacrificing them up there by themselves. They get shot up, destroyed, and then in the middle of the game, it was like a 4-hour game session, like 2 hours in, he's like, oh, I got to go pick up my son, and like leaves. So not only were you like a belligerent asshole that was going to get your way or you're going to have a tantrum, you didn't stay. You ruined your team's chances of winning the game and left. I'm like, that's just, I can tell you that I have not had very many experiences wargaming like that. Or I wouldn't play war games, because that is just unacceptable. That's just unacceptable. It's unsportsmanlike. It's just being a penis wrinkle. Nobody wants to play with people like that. The normal thing to say would be like, hey, I want to play with these units. I'm going to stay the length of the game. I'm going to play with these units, and with these heavy units. And then next time we play, I'll play the infantry. Or let's split up the heavy tanks, or, something. So fortunately, I do not have many experiences. And fortunately, I was on the other side. He doesn't get invited back. Well, the thing is it was at a show. So you can't just say, well, only these people can play. Last time I had that happen to me, the leader of the side I was on just had to leave when we were losing. He transferred command to me, and 2 turns after left, we won the game. Yeah, that's just a poor individual, and that's not just in the game. That's a personal problem. They're that way no matter everything they do. I guarantee the people that person works with know that he's a dickhead. So, anyhow. I've also seen situations where somebody's come in to play a game and they've had, something's happened to them in life that just gives them a bad attitude. And, that doesn't help. You're not going to get any sympathy that way. You're going to have, in fact, you're going to have everybody that's playing the game with you glad that bad shit happened to you, because you deserve it for having that bad attitude. you know. But like I said, it's actually been a rare event for me for that's happened. It has happened. I have had bad experiences, but really the worst thing is mistreating the stuff that I'm spending some time working on because you're messing up my stuff, dude. And you need it so that other people can enjoy it. Need to get a drink. I've driven need a drink. I was talking to a coworker today, and earlier today, he said, "Man, I can't wait to get home and get a drink." I said, "Not me. I want to paint. I don't drink while I'm painting. That's a good way to fall asleep. It's not like that I'm going to have messy lines or something. It's just I'll get sleepy. That's a good way to not get any painting done." All right, road wheels on this bad boy. This is kind of a pain in the ass to paint three at once, but man, it seems like it's a hell of a lot more efficient. And I appreciate you guys hanging tonight, even though there's no viewers. It says there's no viewers, but there are. Let's see what the other thing says. Let's go back to the content here. How many viewers is it showing there? Oh, there it says it's a 1. Who cares? It's all good. It's busted, yeah. That's what happens when it's a free program, right? There's one video editing software. What is it, that Adobe or whatever? What's it called? The Adobe Suite or whatever? It's apparently really expensive. And it has all kinds of bugs in it that they don't fix. I'm like, you better believe that if I'm paying for software, you better have that shit down working right, or I'm not going to pay for that. They got like monthly fees to use it, and I'm like, come on, man, I'm not NBC that needs this to make, commercials and stuff. You will be paying tomorrow. Excellent. In the morning? Yeah. I'm probably going to cut out. You know what? I'm going to cut out right now. And then we'll be back in the morning. We'll be back early. Get some more painting. So what we got to do is we got to do the road wheels on this guy. Road wheels here and details. And then we move to the tracks, or the base color of the tracks for all three. And then we get to look at decal options, which honestly, I know we're going to do white numbers, and I don't want them going over any of the vision slots because it just looks wrong. Even though they did it, there's actually some Africa Corps vehicles I came across that have numbers on them so big They even go over these side door openings, then the whole side. I'm like, that looks wrong. I don't care if they did it in real life. You won't do it in my army. It just looks silly as hell. Okay, these are pretty small. These are the 187th. Let me look at the 172nd from that. I think that's going to be the way to go. Yeah, these are a little bit bigger. And these fit nicely underneath this turret, underneath the vision slot. So we're going to have some white numbers underneath the side visor slots. And yeah, that should fit nicely on there. And then we could have turret numbers on the back, but I don't know if we're going to do that or not. Anyhow, okay, so that was a good one. How long were we on here for? Almost 3 hours. That's not too bad. Okay, folks. Well, there you have it. This is how far along we got with the Panzer IIIGs from Plastic Soldier Company. And we'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Have a good evening.